is an HOA LP in Goodyear?
With a good day to, speaking of good year, how about good day to all of the Noodler family here on the Wholesale Real Estate Training, Sell a House Wholesale Real Estate Training, number 138. Did I do? No, this is 118. Okay, I'm sorry. 118, number 118 on May 18th. Hey, 118 on May 18th. New op day, baby. Here we go with another great, fantastic new op day.
Yes, it is a great, fantastic new op day. Every single day of the week is a great, fantastic new op day. In fact, Paul, I've changed the name of every day of the week to new op day, and it's getting real confusing here. So I've got to number them, I think. 1 through
7. This is new op day 1.
Yeah. Or 1 through a 365 in those terms. But anyway, some of you may be stumbling into this for the first time and you're like, what in the world are these two guys talking about? Bear with us. You'll get on. We are starting a real wealth, real world revolution here of positive mental attitude. And it begins with how you think. But more importantly than how you think is how are you being programmed? And that, to me, is through words. And the words come from the media. The words come from your fellow man. The words come from your own thoughts. You think in words. So you want to start thinking positive. You got to become aware of how powerful words are and the impact that they have on your subconscious mind. So you might hear us talk about new op, and we don't refer to a week as a week anymore. It's a strong or a session, and the weekend is no longer the weekend. It's the climactic epoch of the climax. You know, whatever is positive and sounds good over, you know, good morning, have a good weekend, you know, trying to get more powerful, positive words into our vocabulary. Train our brains to only think with positive words and kind of spread that message, because I think it's important for people to realize how powerful that is. And as we say almost every time on these Hangouts is, you might be thinking to yourself, well, what in the world does this have to do with wholesale real estate? And the answer is everything. You want to be successful in anything, you've got to have a positive mental attitude. So that's why we're big on the whole self-development, personal growth side of the spectrum. So with that, welcome to today's Hangout. I really don't know what we have in store for you yet today. We kind of just let this thing unfold, see where it goes, and I'm sure there'll be a handful of gold nuggets to pull out of here by the end of this 30-minute session. So how are you this morning? Gosh, see, it's hard to do. How are you this fine day, this fine beginning, Paul?
Well, you know, those are some very deeply ingrained ruts, those words that you've been using for, you know, a number of years throughout your life, and retraining yourself, reprogramming yourself to exchange negative, disempowering, really, words with more empowering words isn't an easy thing to do. We'll get some then, but we're working on it, and maybe you should work on it too. And the reason, I want to give an example here. I mean, how in the world is it possible for you? Why is this important to real estate? Well, how is it even possible for you to flip a house, to talk to a seller, to send out marketing, to do on any of the things that need to be done in the process of flipping, doing wholesaling here? If you're starting 52 times a year, you're starting a brand new week with a moan day. I mean, come on. You're off to a horrible start right there. How can you even get out of bed? Oh, and then, you know, have a good morning. Is there such a thing as a good morning? You know, you're going to start every day in morning, and you're starting a week with a moan day. I mean, it's amazing you can get out of bed the rest of the 7 days of the session here. And then once you get that going, the only thing you have left to look forward to is a week ending, a weekend. I mean, come on, people. Let's do something about this, because you know what? Seriously, that is, I mean, how debilitating is that? Just having those words thrust upon you 52 times a year, having to go through that piss poor combination of a 7-day period. I mean, it's debilitating. It's disempowering. And in real estate, attitude is everything. And in fact, attitude isn't everything. Attitude is the only thing. Okay. And if you don't have a goal, you're never going to get there. So start your week, I almost said it. Start 52 times a year, start a new strong session with a new op day, new opportunity day. 52 times a year, I'm starting a new strong session, and culminate that with whatever sounds good to you, a climax, a pinnacle, celebration, whatever, you know. Make it fun. Make it something to live for, not something to die for, which is what basically all those other terms are wrapped around.
You know, it's funny too. We talk about programming and how deeply ingrained thoughts and ideas become in your mind when you think the same way and you hear the same things year after year after year after year. It's funny because it does actually literally form a physical groove into your brain, and or a rut, if you will. And it's also proven that you can create new neural pathways to fill in the rut or avoid the rut or go over the top of the rut just by thinking in a new way. And, you know, that's what's so amazingly powerful about the human mind. And it also makes sense why we're inundated with disempowering words daily. Is almost, it's like there's a conspiracy to keep human beings weak. And it's funny, and I bring this up too because these concepts that Paul and I are talking about here today, we started kind of playing around with this with each other probably a little over a year, maybe almost 2 years ago. Funny thing is, though, and I don't even know if I shared this with Paul, when I was in college, I took English. When I took English 101, I had a teacher named Dr. Shabazz. He was like a Jamaican guy with a big dreadlocks, you know, wrapped up in this like bun type hat. And the biggest thing he was all about was positive words. And he's actually the one that got me thinking about the word weak, because he always, every new op day, you know, today, when we went into class, he would say, all right, everybody have a great strong. And, you know, the first couple times, I hope you're, and then on, you know, middle of the week, he would say, I hope your strong is going well. Have a good strong end. And he always used the word strong. And around maybe the third class or so into it, one of the students was, and we were all thinking, it was like, what in the world are you talking about? You know, what is have a good strong? Hey, is your strong going well? And I really thought that was a cool concept. Obviously, here I am at 37, still talking about the same thing. But I think I was about 20 when I was in this class. The 20 years of programming, hearing this idea, I'm now 37, 17 years later, and I still don't have it programmed in there. I still fall back to the old way of talking and thinking. And that's how powerful the programming is. You know, to hear a new idea that strongly resonates with you, that you're like, cool, that's groovy, man, I want to stick with that one. At 20 years old, here I am at 37, and I still calling it a weak rather than a strong. I remember the concept, but it's because those early formative years, those are the hardest years of your life to overcome that programming. Maybe in 3 years, when I've, you know, gone halfway since I've heard that, maybe I'll start getting some headway against that old programming that I was overcoming. Point I was trying to make with that is that the reason we talk about these self-development concepts pretty much every hangout here on these real estate trainings is because getting into a positive attitude, having daily reminders of being positive and being a warrior and battling against your old programming and self, constant reminder about being open to new concepts and new ideas, talking about this stuff, hearing about this stuff. You have to make time for this every single day, because whether you realize it or not, and when you become aware of this, 80% or more of what you encounter on a daily basis is going to be negative. I don't know how that statistic was determined, but I observe it in my own life just with my daily encounters with your average person walking around out there. Every time I turn on a news channel, that's all it is. You'd think that there's nothing good going on out there if you put on the news. It's war, it's famine, it's destruction, it's robbery, it's murder, it's rape. Even most of the TV shows like Law and Order and Criminal Minds and CSI, I mean, they're all geared towards, you know, quite frankly, the darkest parts of humanity. And let's not pretend that that stuff doesn't exist. Paul and I aren't so naive to believe that everything's going to be fixed just through the power of positive thinking. But a lot of it can be, especially yourself. But, you know, we're not naive to believe that the crap isn't going on out there. But that's why we need the daily reminder, because we've got to build up our defense against all the shit, part of my language, that's going on out there. We've got to have a defense and a wall up to block out the negativity. And I would say you want to put up a wall, but you want it to be a permeable wall, like a cheesecloth, if you will. You don't want a solid wall that nothing can get through. You want a wall that's like a carbon filter, so you can filter out the good stuff and learn from the bad stuff and learn how to keep that out of your life. You know, every day, imagine that every day throughout the day, someone is dumping sand into your hands, and you've got to sift all day long. Sift through that sand, and at the end of the day, there's a couple of little nuggets left in your hand, and you go, whoa, what was left in my hands at the end of the day? It's gold. So you want to be looking for those gold nuggets throughout the day. So, you want to have defense mechanisms and walls up, but you don't want to have such a strong defense and such a strong wall up that you're opposed to letting anything in. You got to be open, but you got to be selective and be open, but you've got to kind of filter the things that are coming into your life, I guess, is the point that I'm trying to make there. But I mean, this stuff, these daily reminders of this stuff is extremely powerful. It's the difference between success and failure, in my opinion.
It's one of the differences. What I was interested in talking about today is one of the other differences between success and failure, and that really is direction, clarity, goals, major purpose, chief aim, knowing where you're going. I mean, if you were dropped into, the middle of Africa and told that you can't ask directions and was said to find your way to Mozambique, you think you'd ever get there? Now, if you were dropped into the middle of Africa with a map, with a directional map to Mozambique, and all you had to do was figure out where you were to get started, don't you think you could actually get there? Having goals and having a plan is a huge piece of achieving success that you want. Now, just because you have a plan, just because you have a goal, first of all, just because you have a goal doesn't mean you're actually going to ever get there. That's the one beautiful thing about creating a big, giant, massive, unbelievable dream as your goal, so that, hey, well, you know what? Even if I don't ever get there, it doesn't matter. Because first of all, it's the getting there that should excite you. And that's what, happiness and joy in this life is all about, is the getting there. And secondarily, the closer you get to it, the happier you're going to be. And if you ever actually get to the full thing, wow, that's great. But if you don't, hey, you had a great time along the way, and who really cares, right? That's what it's all about. So having a goal is something where you can focus on and you can direct your activities, you can direct your actions, you can direct your thinking, you can direct, everything towards the attainment of that goal. And as you are working towards it, all of a sudden, just everything just starts getting better, because one little piece at a time, and obviously, you can only get there one small step at a time. But every time you make one small step and you're thinking, wow, I just got that much closer to my goal. This is fun. This is exciting. This is something I want to do more of. And it just gets better and better, and it snowballs on its way to the point, like I said, where it really doesn't matter if you ever get there or not. It's because you're just enjoying the journey to try to get there. So I was reading a book this weekend, past couple weeks actually. It took me to read the book, but really awesome book by David J. Schwartz, PhD, called The Magic of Thinking Big. And I'll tell you what, this is actually a really good book. I would actually recommend this book. We talk about a few other books, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, T. Harv Ekker's Millionaire the Mastermind, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Some other books that we have talked about. This one, after reading this book, I would almost suggest to people that, who don't have a concept about all this stuff, that this particular book might be a really great place to get started and introduced to these whole ideas and these concepts, because the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, I think, really gets in deep to, actually specific steps, so to speak, to get you from where you are to where you want to go. And same with Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I think that's a guideline to life success. And this particular book, there's definitely guidelines within here, but it's kind of an overall sort of just like a general eye-opening, wow, this whole side of things really makes sense kind of a book. And he did get into, towards the end, he did get into some goals here. And one of the goals that I thought was pretty cool, and I'm going to share this with you guys right now, is an image of me 10 years from now, the 10 years planning guide. So how do you do this? You break it down into, is it 4 segments or 3? 3 segments. You break it down into the work department, the home department, and the social department, okay? Now, in the work department, you basically just want to create 4 different areas, or, think about yourself 10 years from now in 4 different areas. What income levels do I want to attain? What level of responsibility do I seek? How much authority do I want to command? And what prestige do I expect to gain from my work? In the home department 10 years from now, what kind of standard of living do I want to provide for my family and myself? What kind of house do I want to live in? What kind of vacations do I want to take? What financial support do I want to give my children in their early adult years? And then C, in the social department 10 years from now, what kinds of friends do I want to have? What social groups do I want to join? What community leadership positions would I like to hold? And what worthwhile causes do I want to champion? If you think about yourself 10 years from now in those 12 little areas right there, and you write yourself out a little plan, you write yourself out a vision of yourself, what you see of yourself 10 years from now, that gives you something to shoot for. That gives you that big giant, and remember the name of the book, The Magic of Thinking Big, okay? I don't want to live in a little 2-story, cottage in, down the street. I mean, if that's what you truly want, great. But the magic of thinking big, think bigger. Hey, if you say I want to live in a 2-story little mansion, small mansion, only 10,000 square feet instead of 100,000 square feet, I want to live in a nice 2-story small mansion in, upper Massachusetts or whatever, great. If you end up, making your way to a 2-story in the Hamptons, hey, you didn't quite get there, but guess what? Living in the Hamptons in a 2-story ain't half bad, right? So think big, create a vision, create yourself 10 years from now. And just in doing that, it creates a drive within you to want it, to go after it, to start thinking along the ways of how can I get there? What do I have to do? Where do I start? What's a good idea? I mean, it just doing that, going out 10 years in advance and creating yourself gives you this whole inner, it gets your mind to start thinking about that. And once your mind starts thinking about that, your mind will start creating the solutions and the answers and giving you the direction and the steps and all these things will just start coming to you. And next thing you know, you're heading down that path and you're just going, wow, look where I was and look where I am now. And this is fun. I'm having a good time. And look how much closer I am to that big dream. And who cares if I ever get there now? This is fun. Let's go. So this is a real awesome book. I like this book a lot.
You know, it sounds really awesome. And you talked about envisioning yourself 10 years from now. You know what we need to find out so we can let people know on Wednesday is Paul and I back, I think, end of February, beginning of March, we did about a 3-week segment of how to build a plan, like a major plan for your life. And that book sounds excellent, and that's now going to have to be on my reading list. Another thing, you know, that plays into the thinking behind that book is, you know, things that Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale say is that what a man thinks about most, a man will become. So if you have this big plan for your life and you think about this plan and what's naturally going to happen is all of a sudden things are going to start popping into your life, or you're going to, not that they're going to pop into your life because these things have always been there. Now you're going to see the opportunity. You're going to be able to seize the moment because you're opened up. Your eyes are open to receive and see that. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, another great book. And, you know, this whole thing's got me thinking about this quote. And I don't know, it was some sailor who said this. It wasn't Columbus or anyone like that. But he said, you know, the wind does not blow in favor of a ship with no direction. And I love that quote because, you know what? I know how to sail. I've done small boat sailing. And when you're out there, you've got to have a point or a destination you want to reach. And when you're sailing a boat, it's not always a straight line from A to B. Now, I'm here in point A, and I know my destination is point B. And sometimes your destination, you know, is downwind, and it's smooth sailing, and you're flying. But other times, you know, the wind doesn't always blow that direction. Sometimes it blows sideways from the east or the west, or it blows straight in front of you. But guess what? If you know how to sail and you have your direction, you could get to that destination because you have your destination selected. You have your direction. Doesn't matter which way the wind is blowing. The wind will always be blowing in your favor as long as you have your destination, your direction, because what you can do is, okay, the wind's not directly behind me, so I might have to go in Z's, and I come, you know, my destination's here, so I'll come this way, I'll track it back this way, I'll track it back that way. So the wind is always blowing in your favor as long as you have a direction. So I love that quote about, you know, what that means. You know, the wind only blows in favor of a ship with a direction.
And another thing that goes along with that too is you can wake up the next morning and find that you have drifted way off course. But if you know where your direction is and you know where you're headed, you can always correct. You can always you can always change your direction and get yourself back on course. If you get blown off course and you don't know where you're going, well, you're just going to end up somewhere else.
Exactly. So, I mean, this is what we're talking about. And, you know, this is something we may even do on a future hangout is we go through a system for actually building up that 10-year plan. You know, I feel that so many people out there, the older you get, the harder it is to dream anymore for most people, not for all people, but for many people. Because, you know, when you're young, you know, I look at my 5-year-old and 4-year-old daughter, so we can start there. I look at them, they're young. Everything blows their mind. everything is new. Everything is interesting. Everything's an opportunity. They want to play. They want to enjoy. They're not like really tainted. Their imaginations run wild. Like if I tell my kids that we're going to sit on top of the bunk bed and close our eyes and imagine flying to the moon in that bunk bed, those kids' faces and eyes light up as if we're really traveling in that bunk bed to the moon. And I'm actually talking from experience and things that I play with my children. And, you know, as we get older, our imagination gets tainted because, you know, we get older, we start to see I don't even think we really get to see the reality. What happens is as we get older, we start to see a perceived reality that's really forced upon us. So even the way we view the world around us isn't the way a child sees the world. Our minds are shaped by circumstance, by news media, by parents, by teachers, by other people, so forth and so on. And as we get older, you'll notice you start to dream less. You start to imagine less. You start to lose your will to learn and be open to new things. And most people fall into a comfort zone where they just want security. And you know what? If you live your life wanting to be secure, you'll give up everything, all your dreams to feel security. And guess what that means? It means you're giving up your freedom. If you want freedom, real, actual freedom, then you'd be okay with not having any type of security. I'm getting off topic here, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's never too late to start a new beginning. And it's never too late to start dreaming big. You can take control of your life and your mind right now and just decide, you know what? I'm going to start to dream big. I'm going to start to set goals. And you can go out and you can do it and eliminate the word try and just go out and do it. And you know what? For many of you, it might feel funny at first. It might feel uncomfortable. You know, you're going to go, I'm going to sit down in a chair and I'm going to write down 10 things I want to accomplish in the next year. And you might draw a blank, think of one thing. But you know what? It's like anything else. It starts to get easier. And because it's so natural to us to think, it's so natural for us to imagine, we just got to break down the barriers that have been put on our minds. We can be set free. It's really that simple. It really is. But it takes dedication. It takes this kind of a hangout and mastermind on a daily basis, a constant reminder that you have the power within you to dream big and set goals and think about those things and watch how it transforms your life. You know what? Don't take my word for it. Try it out in your own life. And again, a lot of people need a blueprint. A lot of people need a roadmap. That sounds great, John. That sounds great, Paul. But I don't even know how to get started. You know what? Start with a book like Think Big. Paul pointed out those 12 things in the end of the book. That is a system for building your imagination. That right there is a system for setting goals. Paul and I, like I said, we did a 3-week series on how to build a system for creating goals and imagining a life bigger than the one you have now. Books like Think and Grow Rich. There's a system out there for doing this, people. You just got to, have the drive to go out there and find it and then implement it and put it into action. And you know what? Get in a habit of being on this hangout on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for these 30 minutes and feeding your mind with this type of information.
Yep. One thing you said is it's never too late to start a new beginning. I am living proof, and I do want to say that I believe that the longer you wait, the more difficult it is. Because, you know, obviously the longer you wait, the more deeply ingrained those ruts are that keep you, you know, that you're trying to get out of, and it just makes it that much more difficult. But as you said also, you know, you just get started and it gets easier and easier each and every day, as long as you stick with it. One thing that our mentor Jeff always talks about is very important, is to write things down. When it comes to the goals, when it comes to this image of me 10 years from now, don't just sit there and think about this stuff. Write it down. Write it out in big, bold letters. Get a big old piece of construction paper. Get something this size right here that you can write this out on. Plaster it on your wall. Plaster it above your bed. Plaster it, you know, put a little card, make a small version. Put it on the visor in your car. Put this kind of thing everywhere where you can see it constantly, all day long. And all day long, take a minute to, you know, see it, to read it, and most importantly, to believe it. That's the big thing right there. And so write this stuff down, because if you don't write it down, you don't have a goal. All you've got is a wish. All right. So write it down, put it out there, put it around where you can see it, and constantly. And what I like about this too is with this one here is this just starts out. It's not. It doesn't break down a whole bunch of. It doesn't really break this. It's basically just an image of me. It's an image of myself. How do I see myself 10 years from now? You know, that's just a good place to start. You can't. I was looking at this yesterday, and like I said, it's more difficult for me because I'm older. But just thinking about where, you know, and I was thinking about this just from memory. I didn't have the book with me, and so I was just thinking about this stuff and trying to put this together from what I had read, and it was difficult to bring in these visions and to bring in these thoughts and ideas. And I didn't stick with that plan. Obviously, I wrote something all totally completely different than what's there. But it was an interesting little exercise, and it took a while. I was playing golf yesterday. I was walking. I was going very slow, which I'm a little sore today because I haven't played in 2 years. But you know, and I was thinking about this. I got a little disrupted on the front 9 because I had like about 5 groups behind me that were coming up, and I had to let them play through. And I was talking to people and stuff like that. But then I got back out to you know, being, you know, kind of on my own out there and just walking in the park basically and thinking about this stuff. And it took me a while. I finally was able to come up with some stuff that I could sit down on the bench and write some stuff out. But it took a while to think about this stuff. So yeah, it is difficult to start. And I'm going to redo it, obviously, you know, exactly on the format like this. I'm going to keep what I had. I can incorporate that, but I know it's going to be easier and easier every time when I look at this and I start looking at it, and maybe I'll make some changes. You know, maybe in a couple of months I'll look at it again. I'll go, okay, you know what? I'm a little more clear in that area. That's not exactly what I want. What I exactly want is this. And hey, nobody says you got to write it out once and stick with it forever. Change it. Make it work.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's another, you know, just got me thinking about how important it is to write things down, is because ideas and thoughts come through your head constantly all day long. Now, if you're not writing down the good ones, you're going to forget. So that's just the bottom line. And, you know, thinking about what Paul just kind of said right there about, you know, coming back to something, you know, in a future time that you've been to, you know, if you're a person that's constantly evolving, constantly changing. So when you read something today and you look at that same material again a year from now, you might get it on a totally different level. It might resonate with you in a totally different way, and you'll pick out a piece of that speaks to you completely different. Same thing with your own ideas and dreams. You know, that's why you want to have a journal and write things down, because you know, what's more interesting than coming back to something you thought was a great idea or a concept or a story you created or a dream you had, and looking at that, you know, a year, 2, 3 years from now and reminding yourself of that. You know, I really wish I started journaling the second I learned to write down the English language, because I'd love to see what my mindset was like at 6, 7 years old. You know, it's something to think about if you're a parent right now, is to, hey, you know what? Let's try to show my kids and be diligent about teaching children right at an early, ripe age this kind of stuff. And if we can get this stuff taught to the young people, we could change the world that way. I mean, that's the only way to do it, really. And that kind of plays into something I was talking about Friday, is about how we can contribute to making this world a bit more positive place. And it's to spread this message, not to just adults, more importantly to children, people that haven't been ruined yet, if you will. But just to say, you know what, that's very important. And you should always come back to hangouts like this and listen to these concepts again, a year in the future. Read a book that you've read that resonated with you at one time, or, you know, a book that changed. You go, oh, man, most people I know that read books have read a book that they said, you know, that book changed my life. There's a book in particular that got me off my ass and moved me out of New York because I was so inspired by the book that I would love to go back and read it and see what it does for me now. And that's why I think it's important to write down your ideas as well, so that you can look at them, you know, review them and look at them again in the future.
Yep. So for those of you who would like another shot at this, David J. Schwartz, PhD, The Magic of Thinking Big. It's already on my reread list for next year. I definitely want to go back and read this again and see how it hits me next year, because like John said, you're a changing, evolving human being. And when I read this again next year, I'm going to grab something else that's really awesome out of this book, I guarantee you. So with that, everybody, I think we're done here today on this wonderful new update. Get out there and create some success in your life. Build yourself a goal. Go buy a book. That's a good place to start. Go buy a book. Don't go buy a book from the science fiction section or the love romance section. Go over to the, what do they call it? Self-help section. Yeah, I guess that's where you go.
Personal development.
Yeah, personal development, self-help. I guess that's where you find these books. I don't know. Go to Amazon and just look them up. But anyway, that's all I got, John. Why don't you take us out of here?
All right. Well, I think we've summed up our thoughts for the day. So with that, go out there, make it a great, strong session, and we'll see you back here Wednesday morning.
Yes, we will.